Welcome, everyone, through all time and space to an all new episode of Weebs on the Weekends, a podcast where we break down the anime news highlights of the week and give a retrospective look at anime that premiered 10 years ago. On today's episode, we'll be covering the news from the first week of December 2020 and give our thoughts on whether the first three episodes of the 2010 anime Star Drivers makes us expect or suspect the rest of the series. My name is Jay Johnson. I'm a part-time weeb and full-time automobile mechanic. No, I'm not, because I'm an English language sensei. And with me, as always, is my co-host Sam Martinez, part-time weeb, and he's the full-time automobile mechanic. How you doing today, Sam?
Magdan Gabi, Guru Johnson. ¿Cómo está acá?
How am I doing, Sam? I'm doing pretty well. I mean, my city's still in lockdown, and I mean, I told you this earlier. Is that I got out of I have classes in the morning, so I was like 10 minutes late to class, even though I literally just have to roll out of bed, put on my school uniform, turn on my computer, turn on the camera, and just start teaching. So it's been a very interesting lifestyle change for me because literally I could just wake up, roll out of bed, and then just go right to classes. It's like, and I sent you that meme about Aizawa from My Hero Academia saying, oh yeah, I'm late for school. Oh wait, I'm 30 years old. Oh no, I'm a teacher. Kind of. So I've been very much in that mood.
And then it turns out he was in class the whole time.
Yeah, he was in class the whole time. Exactly. Paradox, right? My bedroom is my classroom. But yeah, doing pretty well. The city seems to be doing pretty well. There's not many new cases popping up, so we're what's called squishing the curb or whatever, swashing the curb. So it should be about another month or so of like this heavy regulations, and like they started selling alcohol again this week, and regular like everyday like businesses are expanding their operating times, even though like our very big super complex shopping center is just like kind of the equivalent of Walmart, basically closed down this whole weekend to sanitize the whole building and all their products. So I was very much disappointed to find that out after spending 2 hours in traffic getting there just to find that it was closed for the weekend.
Do they have their hours online? For instance, over here in the States, you can Google like a store and it will let you know the hours of operation. I mean, granted, some of it would change because of the holiday season, but is that something that you can do over there where you're at?
Oh yeah, for sure. But it's kind of like, why would you expect Walmart? It's not like Walmart has like, they don't let all their customers know, oh, we'll be closed for 48 hours. It's like, yeah, you just showed up to Walmart and they're like, no, you can't come in, kind of things. It's like you wouldn't think to check their hours, even though they have reduced hours. But anyways, that's how I'm doing pretty well. How about you, Sam?
That's good. I'm doing all right. It's getting a little hectic for me with the holiday season, and I've got some certification tests that I've told you about. So a little antsy, but with some of my anxiety has been placated with the anime that I've been catching up on, and oh my goodness, dude, Akudama Drive and Jujutsu Kaisen. Just really, really loving those guys, especially with how the opening is still the same, but they're changing just enough to reflect what's going on in the story. It's good. And I've also been watching another suggestion of yours, The Great Pretender, and that's been a pretty fun ride too. So,
all right, cool. Yeah, get your good fill of anime, catch up on the 2020 animes that you have missing, because we do have a best of 2020 list coming up next episode. So that's going to be fun to talk about where we rank all of them. And looking at from last December goes back pretty large time. And even though 2020 was a garbage year for the rest of the world, the anime industry kind of kept putting things out. I mean, even though there was heavy delays this year, but the quality of things didn't drop. Still has the same exponential growth from year to year. So it was a pretty good year overall. But anyways, that leads us into the news of 2020 for this week. So I have the news for us. Sam, you ready to hear it?
let's do the news. I am ready for it.
All right, sweet. As always, the time codes are going to be in the description. So we will have our news of the week highlights right now, and then we talk about Star Driver, which I have many thoughts about, but we will wait for that till later. So this is a follow-up news story. It's a follow-up news story to last week, as Sam reported, is that there was a promotion for My Hero Academia, and this week there was official word that the third My Hero Academia has been slated for release in summer 2021. So this came out in Shonen Jump Weekly this week, or I guess it would be issue 52 this week.
Okay.
So that's the author, of course, Hiroshi. Hiro? No, wait.
Hirokoshi.
Wow, Hirokoshi, thank you. I was forgetting that middle kanji. Yeah, Hirokoshi said that he'll be acting as supervisor of the script again, as well as providing the story background, as well as overseeing the project like he's did for the past two movies, Hero Risings and Two Heroes, or the first one was Two Heroes, and then the next one was Heroes Rising, which again, I think is very mixed order for what for which those stories were about. Is that the second movie was actually about Bakugo and Midoriya being heroes, and then Heroes Rising were actually anyways, yeah. But the third movie has the promo picture of the visuals of Bakugo, Midoriya, and Todoroki in black suits, and they have the patch of the WHA. So a lot of that has been left up to speculation by the fans, and people have been rabid about theories. But Sam, last week we talked a little bit after the podcast, and I wanted you to share right now, what were your thoughts on it?
My thoughts, I touched a little bit on it in the podcast, but as I saw the poster, it said the Three Musketeers, and from where I'm at in the manga, the those three individuals, they're in a position where they are working with each other, and it seemed interesting that the movie was going to take place around that region, and I was hoping that they would delve into a little bit of French influence that Hirokoshi has been using. For instance, One for All, the whole musketeer theme and things like that. And I was just sending memes and jokes to my friends, just like, who are they going to try to meet? Are they trying to meet D'Artagnan? Because the promo was like, the Three Musketeers is going to meet somebody or trying to find something. And so, like, that was my little joke. But it would actually be kind of cool to see them run into a D'Artagnan like character, say how Gran Torino was for Deku, and have this one character to sort of give them advice and stuff like that. That's outside of All Might and that's outside of Endeavor, to give them a third perspective that they didn't really know. And it would be interesting to see that character also get a handle, know how to handle all three of their personalities, especially Bakugo.
Right, and Horikoshi has been very centrally focused on just addressing how heroes have been, peered and treated in Japan. So it's very interesting that a lot of the fan speculation is that the logo on their like black suits is H, or would stand for World Hero Association. So thinking that, again, like coming off of your idea that they might go to France, they might go to other countries. Again, the previous uh, hero movies talked about like the scene in America and basically how Americans deal with the whole hero situation. So it's very interesting that I think that a lot of the how rabid the fan community is, like they're putting out theories like they're going to be like Black Ops Group, and Hatsumi, who is like the hero costume designer, is going to be like the Q, and they're like she's going to come along. It's very interesting that the other movies were focused a little bit more on the class dynamic, but this might just be focused on these three.
And I would say I appreciated the other movies for doing that, because the way that the show was, especially in those times when the movies was out, they they try to give everybody the spotlight, because essentially, even though Deku is the focal point of the story, as the series goes on, the strength of the series is also in the supporting cast and how strong they are. And I would say that the movie, especially the second one, dealt very well in showing the growth of the class as a whole. And now, as the series is going on, we're starting to see the heroes diverge a little bit. For instance, some of them are getting work studies, and we see them get to partner up with different characters in these work studies, and seeing them have different dynamics with certain heroes. And we're starting to splinter and focus on specific individuals during specific instances. For instance, with the Yakuza arc, where we focused on specific heroes who were dealing with that, and we knew in tandem that other heroes were doing other work studies as well, but we were sort of following Deku and the heroes that were associated around his story around that time. So it would just be it's going to be interesting to see how they transition to that sort of mindset in the movie. And I'm glad that Deku's finally getting an upgrade to his costume, because it looked like he was trying to thrift shop and he did not have Macklemore style at all.
Oh, that's so true. I mean, in the first season, he says like, "Oh yeah, my mom designed this for me," and I'm like, "Dude, that's just Spider-Man spandex that she got from Goodwill." But anyways, yeah. So this story is going to take place, yeah, probably after what you mentioned, Sand, about when Todoroki Bakugo and Midoriya start working together, or at least building up on their team
Yeah.
strengths. Or but season 5, of course, is opening with the class 1 and versus class A fight and that kind of arc. So it's going to, the movie again is going to be somewhere in that time period, again happening in between the first core and the second core of season 5. Same
Okay.
thing with like the past movies, they've been set kind of in the middle of the or at the end of the first season and then at the middle of the third season. So hopefully not to ruin anybody, to again to give the audience that doesn't actually follow the anime in earnest, I guess, not doing any
Yeah.
surprises, because there's definitely some surprises that happen in season 5 where that will happen in season 5. But anyways, that's the
I
first
think.
news. Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, no, I'm sorry. Just before we go on, I think say what you were saying, because it's hearkening to something that's a little bit further on, but because it's in between the Class A versus Class B thing, I think what they're going to do is they're going to like subtly hint at stuff early on. For instance, with Two Heroes Rising, they're hinting at stuff that we're going to see in the Class A versus Class B fight. So I think that's probably what the route that they're going to go with. Like, it's going to be like a class A, but they're going to focus a little bit on those three characters right there and try to lay groundwork for what's to come and not be so heavy-handed with it.
Yeah, that's fair to say. And it's interesting, and also in the fact that Horikoshi wasn't planning to make this third movie. He said that at the end of the second movie, because how the second movie ended, and oh, well, you saw the movie as well.
Yeah.
But the ending to the second movie was actually how his first draft of My Hero Academia was actually going to end.
Oh,
And that's what he
seriously?
wouldn't say. Yeah, he was saying that he used the earlier draft of how he, so like he's already planned out the whole duration of the manga series. He
Yeah.
was saying this was an earlier draft, and he just worked it into the movie, and that's why he didn't want to explore too many more ideas to like give more hints to how the long term of the manga is going to span out. So
Oh, that makes sense.
movies. Yeah. So very interesting guy, taking so much influence from Western hero tropes and putting it through the Japanese context. That's why I'm stick on to My Hero Academia for so long. But anyways, on to the second news story. We're delving a little bit into the manga world, but as always, the manga world kind of connects into the anime world. So I thought this story was at least enough.
Everything's connected.
Enough. Yeah, it's connected in all sorts of ways. So leave your mind boggling for more. But anyways, the second news story is that the 66 Shogakukan, the manga award ceremony, has revealed its nominees for Best Manga of 2020. So again, there's many boards. There's a lot of award bodies out there for best mangas, but this one is interesting enough because it has a good track record of turning series or manga series into animes. So,
Okay.
2019 winner, one of the categories, was Kaguya-sama Love is War, which again was on one of my top tens for the year of 2019. So very good manga series, but their categories are best children's manga, best shonen manga, best shoujo manga, and best general manga. So very short award ceremony, very short, selection base. They had basically have 3 nominees per category. So out of the 4 categories, they have just 12 nominees in general. But last year, again, like I said, was Kaguya-sama for best
Yeah.
shoujo. So they have at least a good enough track record to turn, manga series, or at least give, enough popularity or credit to a series and then push that into the production of its anime. And the reason I brought it up now is because right now in the running for nominees, there is what is that? That's Master Tagaki San teaser, the teaser or teasing master Tagaki.
Oh, the one with those little kids with the round heads.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, yeah, big forehead girl and
Yeah.
wimpy kid dude. Yeah,
How old
so
were they supposed to be? Because they look like they were elementary, but I think they're
they are
supposed to
elementary
be
school
like
students.
middle school or something. I don't know.
They're in their last year of like elementary school, so like
Okay.
I think they're 11 or 12. But anyways, yeah, so that already has a anime series right now. But again, it's giving this award credit for pushing a lot of series through their perceived value when they
Yeah.
win awards. I wanted to bring that up, and also the one highlight is Chainsaw Man, which has been gaining a lot of recognition and popularity over the last year, given its publication at the end of last year. So, have you heard of Chainsaw Man, Sam?
Yes, actually, after the last few times that you had mentioned it, that I have been seeing it in the manga apps that I've been using, and I've been trying to read a little bit of it. And it's pretty interesting. It's fairly straightforward, and I can see why it's gotten as popular as it has. It's very, very new. I would say there's only maybe 98 chapters, probably about to go to their first 100 chapters. So there's not a lot to it, but it's fairly interesting what they're trying to do with it. What about you? What's your exposure to Chainsaw Man?
It's just one of those. Again, I try to keep up with all the Shonen Jump publications, and this is just one that caught my eye, given how much I hate violence and gore
Yes.
in mangas. Is that the image of like the first cover of Chainsaw Man is again this dude has basically the ability to transform into a chainsaw man, and he has like a chainsaw sticking out of his head, and he has chainsaws along his arms. It's very grotesque and body image horror throughout the series, and I was just fascinated because even though I hate looking at these things, I really appreciate the art and detail that it goes into. So I don't mind horrifying myself and give me bad nightmares if I'm able to appreciate good art.
You're
But
like, I can tolerate this nightmare fuel because I know the story's going to be good.
right, exactly. So I do wanted to highlight this because this feels like the final push that a lot of people have been talking
Yeah,
about.
that it needed to get that anime.
Right. And a good rule of thumb is that it takes 2 years of publication to build up the circulation numbers, to build up the financing base for a manga to actually transition into an anime, and of course a year after that point for that manga to actually be in full publication, not full publication, full production at an anime studio. So looking right now, if Chainsaw Man does win this award, we're probably looking at a Chainsaw anime in like the next 2 years, within the next 2 years.
Oh no, I believe it. The way the art style and the story itself, it seems like it can definitely transition very well into anime form. I will say, for those who want to know a little bit about the aesthetic, if you can remember the chainsaw weapon from Soul Eater, just think about that, but mixed in with Wolverine in the sense that every time he uses his powers to get the blades out of his skin, he ends up losing blood, like much like with Wolverine. Without his healing factor, every time he uses his blades, he is continually bleeding. So it's a little bit like that, where when he uses his powers, it's sort of on a time limit because he would bleed out and he would pass out if he uses it for so long. And the story behind how he got this ability to transform and his backstory, it's just frames everything a bit differently. So it is pretty interesting.
Right, and the only thing that would be keeping it from, getting its final push into anime production is just that it would have to be R-rated. And we did have earlier this year Gleipnir, if you
Yes,
remember that film.
I
Is same thing.
remember.
Yeah, body horror and the rated R status and mature theme. So it wouldn't be, even though it's in Shonen Jump, it's definitely not a for kids property, especially if it gets animated, where those indicators of violence get just turned up way up, and then it's really hard to again sell that to kids. But it's very interesting. So I just wanted to bring that to light and see where that tracks from here on out. So our last news story for the day is that Funimation debuts One Piece on Blu-ray for the first time, and I
What?
thought it was a yeah. Again, I always try to make my last news story just for you, Sam. Anyways,
Aw,
yeah. So
you do
Funimation
care.
again has the licensing right to One Piece, and that the season 11, which is AKA known as Voyager 1, which are episodes 629 through 641, will be released on Blu-ray. No data release right now, but yeah, this is the first time that a season of One Piece has been released on Blu-ray. So, Sam, I want to kind of get your insight to why you think season 11 is worthwhile to make into Blu-ray, since Funimation has made it their business model to just release One Piece on DVD. Why do you think season 11 demands a Blu-ray release, I guess, is my question.
Let me see real quick. I'm just trying to remember what happened in season 11. There were so many seasons. I would say it's been a long time coming. They should have been had a Blu-ray because I feel as though with Blu-ray you can get higher quality and you can also put more episodes on there as well.
Yeah, but to be fair, I mean, Funimation does release all their One Piece movies
Yeah.
on Blu-ray. So it's not that it's a new thing. It's just a new thing for them to actually release a full season on Blu-ray. So they
Mm.
have all the films, so which I forget how many One Piece films there are right now, but they also do the TV specials on Blu-ray as well. So it's just a new story for. It doesn't feel like scraping the barrel. It just seems like a very odd thing to announce right now, especially with no release date.
Yeah.
So even though we're at the end of the year, you think it would come out with, oh, buy for Christmas, but no, like no release date, and it's going to come with the English sub and dub as well as a voice the voice acting panel that happened on Funimation Con 2020 of like the voice actors, American voice actors, not American, English voice actors of the
Yeah.
series to talk about everything that went into the production of their recordings. So it's just really interesting that everything else around this Blu-ray release, like season 10, as well as which is AKA Voyager 3, as well as Voyager 4, have been released on DVD, but
You
season
still there?
11 is just coming out on Blu-ray. So I want to know why.
That was one thing that I was trying to look at right now to see where because you said it was episode 600, yeah, 629 through 641, and it seems like that was a little bit. It seems like that's around the Dress Rosa arc. I'm trying to see if it's right before or if it's during. When because you told me that you were in and out of One Piece for some time. Do you have you read any of the Dressrosa art or no?
Have I read any of it? No, but I've seen all the episodes of Dressrosa, like from the Coliseum battles to the end of the Dom Domingo fight with Luffy. So I'm very familiar with that, and that does make sense because that was another turning point for One Piece, I guess, in the consciousness of, I mean, non One Piece fans is like the hype
Yeah,
around Luffy taking down Don Flamingo, who's kind of been the somewhat building villain for the past, I guess, couple of hundred episodes of One Piece. And then now that was kind of the offset of everything that's going down with the four yokais. I guess I'm saying the right names.
Yonko.
Yonko, thank you. Yeah. So again, I think if that is like if this is the time period of that, it does make sense now. Is that this would make me definitely want to buy this in Blu-ray if that is the Dressrosa. Okay, so yeah, not much of a reason other than that's a high point for One Piece to kind of switch the gears if they actually do make this more of a standard practice of making Blu-rays of their seasons. Again,
Mhm.
not much of One Piece is too like not disheartening, but again, it's only the number. Again, what most non One Piece fans say, oh, why do I need to
Oh yeah, it's
watch
just
so much
so
of
much work.
One Piece when they've probably digested so much more anime outside of One Piece, and it's just like, well, I don't want to read the Odyssey, but it's the Odyssey. So I think this is a very good way if you're giving a reason for why to make Blu-rays now is to welcome more people into the One Piece fandom. I don't know if One Piece
Oh,
fans have
definitely.
an actual name for themselves, but One Piece fandoms, straw hats, I guess. But yeah,
It
so
would
that's
be cool if they
the
call
news
themselves crew
for
members or something.
yeah, that's the end of the news for this week, Sam. So we have a anime of Mecha, and I would say that this is definitely a choice made by you, and it
Yes.
is to me a knockoff version of Darling in the Franks, which is a knockoff version of Girl Lagan. So can you know why you picked this and made me suffer?
Come on, Jay. It was only 3 episodes, but I would say it was interesting to me because, of course, it was a mecha, so I had to look into it, and it had a movie afterwards, so it made me think. It's like, oh, this series became as popular as it has to garner movies, so this must be something. I mean, honestly, when I was looking for movies for us to watch, I saw Star Driver, and then I saw that it was a mecha. And when I realized that there was a series prior to it, it made me want to go back and at least get exposure to the anime. Did you hear about this anime series before now, Jay, or is this the first time hearing it or being exposed to it like I am?
Oh no, I've heard about it before, given the unique design of its main mecha in the series, and I did hear about the movie. But and of course, it turns out that the movie actually isn't a movie. It's just a that word. Why am I having trouble saying this
It's
word?
a compilation?
Yeah, compilation movie. Star Driver anime, just broken up in a way to make it a full length movie runtime. So taking out all the breaks and making sure the pausing flows a little bit more like a movie would. So yeah, it's a compilation movie, not an actual film.
Ugh. I'm glad that you at least said that because Gurren Lagann they did that for their first film that they did. I think they did that for their second one too. Because they've had 3 movies. I want to say they did that for the first 2, but the third movie was a bit different. And I'm not sure. I guess like you said, it's done to make the series more digestible, but it I'm not a big fan of those types of movies because if it's just a rehash of the series, I can see them, and I've seen this in other movies too, where they essentially just reuse same animation. It's not like they probably clean it up a little bit for the movie, but it's nothing that really adds to the series. And because it's a retelling and it's done within the time frame of a movie, it feels rushed a lot. But to give a little bit of background of the show, Star Driver, right? So that way we can then talk about it. Star Driver takes place in a fictional island known as Southern Cross Isle, and we see a boy named Takto get washed up ashore, and he is saved by I'm trying to remember her name.
Yeah, Wako.
Yeah, Wako and her boyfriend. I forgot his name, but they are students that were attending the school as well that he had just transferred to. And while they're there at the island, he finds out that there is a conspiracy by a group of the islanders who are trying to use these giant mechas known as psi bodies and essentially release them to where they can sell them off as war machines to other countries to garner their rich to make it rich and make it big. However, the psi bodies, they are locked in this dimension that are sealed off by these shrine maidens, and they have to break each of these seals, each of the four seals, so that they can bring the psi bodies into their normal reality. And Takudo has the ability to connect to this dimension whenever they hop into it, and he finds it upon himself to prevent them from breaking these seals, because I'm not entirely sure. They didn't really explain it, but it seems as though for them to break the seal of a shrine maiden, they essentially have to harm her in that alternate reality dimension. And these are actual people. For instance, Wako is one of these shrine maidens, and they abduct her and they try to break her seal. And because Takuto is essentially indebted to her for saving his life, he does his earnest to protect her. And when he arrives, they call him the Ginga Bishonen, which is essentially the Galactic Pretty Boy. They hadn't really explained that. I think they'll do that later on in the series. And the group that he's going against, they're known as the Glittering Crux Brigade. And essentially, it is about the brigade's influence in the school and their schemes to try to release the psi bodies from their alternative reality prison, and Takuto's efforts to ensure that the shrine maidens are kept safe. What were you said that you had plenty of thoughts, Jay. So what would you like to say about what you've seen?
Yeah, so there is major Beyblade Yu-Gi-Oh hair going on in the show. For
Yes.
one, there is there is so much colorful hair, and it's funny that this organization has they basically meet in secret, and they're wearing masks like this masquerade masks,
Yes, it's
and they
a
stand
very
out because
European influence.
all their hair is like uniquely colored to them that you see in the school during the day, so you actually know who are all the members, so it's not even a surprise about who all the evil people in the show are, even though they have this whole underground secret meeting between them. And it's not even that, it's like a lot of it is just so boring in these first three episodes. Nothing happens. Nothing happens in these first three episodes of value. And it's a monster of the week. Again, it's a mecha. So, you
Yeah.
have battles between guys approaching the main MC and him going into his mecha to do battle, which does have a fantastic transformation scene that I've never seen before. That he goes full magical girl,
Yes, he
so
does.
gets naked. Well, no, actually, I've seen it in another mecha series. Like I forgot what it's called, but I think it's Aquarion Evo. But anyways, he
Yeah.
goes full magical girl. But when he gets out of his magical girl transformation, he's in like these French Renaissance clothes, which I thought was a really great touch because there's so much flamboyancy with the MC that I'm just surprised about how that kind of just passed through the whole meat grinder that is the anime process. Is even in the opening of the show, like his stick figure body is so kind of like it looks unnatural and
It's,
unhealthy.
it's
It's
all
very
gangly.
it's a good opening, good music, good imagery, good visuals. Not much of a character piece for introducing anyone outside of our MC, but yeah, I like it a lot for the mech part of it because the design is very Darling in the Franks of what I said before. Is that the mech in this is Torban, and it basically has like a skirt. It has high heel, like platform boots, very spindly legs and arms, kind of like a mantis. It has a crown, and it has the French D'Artagnan kind of feather in the cap. kind of headdress to it, as well as the pilot you can see in like a spherical ball
Yeah.
inside the chest of the mech. And again, like the design to the mech is just very beautiful and elegant, and it's like very unique. So that's why what originally caught my attention to it. But again, not being the biggest mecha fan, I was like, nah, I like it, but I'm not going to dedicate any time toward it for that reason. And I'm glad I didn't before. So that's one of my thoughts about it. But Sam, you tell me something about you. What do you think of it?
Well, I will say, like, it was just interesting. I think you sort of planned for this when you had mentioned the My Hero Academia movie, the Three Musketeers, because as you said before, the French Renaissance. It's the aesthetic for the costumes and the robot designs. They are very heavily influenced in French, and even the phrase that they say to engage or to get inside of the mechs, approboy, or it looks the way that's spelled. It looks like it's approviseur. It's French for tame. So not only that, but like you said, the clothes, and I was actually it was actually kind of surprising because there's a sword fight that takes place, and with the heavy French influences, you would think that the main character would change to a fencing stance, but because he's a brawler, he even though he looks elegant in his body and his frame, and the way that his mech moves is similar to that, he opts not to use that uh, fighting style. Oh, I would say that when I was watching this on Crunchyroll, a commercial had played for a shake weight from 10 years ago. So I had a little bit of an experience, a little bit of a flashback of what it was like to watch it 10 years ago. Um, I would say that was just a little bit funny. But I would say one thing that I really like about the show, too, is a lot of the callbacks and a lot of the references to mecha shows and Super Sentai shows in the past, because as I mentioned, oh no, as you mentioned, with the group that he's going against, everybody's in masks, everyone's in costumes, and it felt very much like the bad guys that you would see in the older Super Sentai shows or the older Kamen Rider shows, where everybody sort of looks like they have like the putty costumes where it's all like a onesie and they'll have a mask on their face. Even though everybody knows their identity, they still have it to try to claim whatever anonymity that they have. But there it seems as though like there's more purpose to the mask, which I think the series may go into a little bit later. But another callback that they did is in the bumps where they play before the commercials, they say the name of the show, much like how Gunbuster did their bumps, where it was Gunbuster. This one it was like Star Driver. It was just in the very same format. I think that was a nice callback and a nice reference. And I enjoyed the first three episodes. It shows, I guess, because I was just reading a little bit too into it, because they did show that in the first episode, they did break one of the seals, and the episodes afterwards, they were sort of playing on what happens after the seals are broken. For instance, there's this one character, she has these powers a little bit similar to Poison Ivy, to where when she kisses you, she essentially has you under hypnotic control and gets you to do her bidding. She is and she's infatuated with the boyfriend of Wako, and so she hypnotized this one guy to kidnap her so that she can get Wako out of the way so that she can pursue the boyfriend, essentially. So when you're not paying attention to the show and you're not a big mecha fan, you're not going to pay attention to stuff like that. It's like, oh, she was just kidnapped just because, you know. But I sort of liked that interpersonal thing that was going on, and it showed that the more seals that are broken, the more abilities that the brigade can have outside of the realm. And so it seemed like that that was pretty interesting, and I would look forward to see what other types of abilities would be used and what they would try to do to break all the other seals for the Shrine Maidens.
All right, cool. Yeah, there was an interesting dynamic between the three main leads of the show. Again, they
Yeah,
take up the whole ED of the series, and like it's just them palling around, doing high schooler things. And it's interesting that it's a situation where they're not boyfriend and girlfriend; they're engaged between Wako and the other character, who again I'm not really invested enough to remember his name. It's really interesting that, I mean, don't want to talk about subtext too much, but it's
yeah,
very interesting that they're in this relationship, they're engaged, but even in the first episode, he's very much upfront with the MC about saying, "Oh, well, she likes you, and she has an interest in you for obvious reasons that he's the MC of the story."
yeah,
And I like how offhands, or I guess not even progressive, it's just that he says this very beautiful line about uh, very much speaking to old time or traditional Japanese cultures of arranged marriages, is that you should be free to love whoever you want. And not to get into anything subtextual about that, but it very much seems like the dude's gay. And I was very interesting to see if I'm going to pursue anything past these three episodes to see if that actually realizes itself as anything, because he's very cool. He's into judo, even though his complexion and his character design reminds me of the weird vampire dude from Blue Exorcist, and that vampire is definitely gay. So it's very interesting along the dynamic that's set up between those three. And even though it's interesting, like the girl is so bland, her only character trait is that she's hungry all the time, I guess.
yes,
Because in all three episodes, there's a moment when her stomach rumbles, and it's a whole thing of, oh, she's hungry, or oh, you're not really feeling yourself if you're not eating. I'm like, oh, okay, does eating make for a character trait now? And even in the first three episodes, again, they don't really establish anything about the characters. They understand that the
yeah.
MC has been somewhat sent to this island under the directions of their grandfather, and
Oh, that was
to
one thing that I love about the MC. I'm sorry. Continue.
oh yeah,
I'll
it's just that,
talk about that.
yeah, the MC off the bat is like engaging, interesting. Like how he speaks is very unique. Again, like that is a good positive presentation of a character, but it's also that everyone around him doesn't really get any time to shine or any depth to them. Again, the main love interest already falls in love with him. Like the moment she resurrects him, essentially on the first episode or in the first scene. So it's like nothing was earned in their relationship yet. And it's a little off-putting again, but that's mecha. That's the mecha genre. So it's like undeserved love already off the bat. So yeah.
I don't think it's that, because she resuscitated him with mouth to mouth, and a little bit like what you were saying, like the fiance. Like looking back on it, I guess he was, I guess he does swing for the other team, because he was sort of playing jokes with her, saying, "Hey, Takuto, do you think, like, have you gotten your first kiss yet?" And he was like, "No, I haven't." And he's like, "Oh, do you consider mouth to mouth, kissing?" Right, just trying to poke fun at Wako, and trying to force something there. And I guess just the fact that he didn't know her from anything, and he decided to step in to help her out when the brigade was trying to break her seal. I guess that's when the feelings started getting more. But as you said, there was little personality with her. The only thing that we know is that she's truly herself when she's hungry, and that's when she's most happy, which is okay, I guess. But like as you said before, that's not much of a character trait. That's just a quirk, if anything.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, again, like nothing much happens in these first three episodes. Like the first episode, yeah, she gets kidnapped. You get the activation of the mech. Dude gets defeated. In the second episode, they open up like with a council meeting. So they do all the hallmarks of what a good 3 episode test checks for. So like in the
Yeah.
second episode, we actually do get a understanding of how the world is going to work. Is that they're going to keep sending lackeys after the galactic pretty boy, and then that's going to be like basically a monster of the week setup, which again, like you've explained, is that as soon as they break seals, is that the this like evil council, student council body essentially basically get increased power. So there does add a little bit of a unique dynamic, is that as they succeed with their plan, they do get more powerful. So they get technically closer to defeating the pretty boy. But everything else is that this everything is also oddly fantastical in a unreal way, which is odd to say for anime,
How?
but it's like everyone talks in this very non-human kind of way, and I caught that with in the second episode again. There's like the scene of our main C is sitting next to the window, of course, and
Yes.
then the poison ivy girl. No, it's not poison ivy girl, but it's a green-headed girl, and she's sitting behind him and she's making out with her husband who's on the other side of the glass.
Oh, no, no, no. That wasn't her husband. That was some random classmate.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, total
Yeah,
stranger. He says total stranger.
yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, this is totally not a high school. So, you look at animes and they kind of
Yes.
capture somewhat of a high school experience, but everything is so whimsical, it's so laid back. I mean, they know that there's an evil council. So it's kind of like the whole Scott Pilgrim evil ex-boyfriend kind of thing is like, yes,
Pretty
we're
much.
operating in the real world, but also there's supervillains here. So it feels very mixed genres. So I'm off put by that a little bit, but
Yeah.
not enough so that it fails the 3 episode test, I guess. But it definitely establishes itself well enough in the way of this is not something I'm going to enjoy. So that's why I'm very sus of it. But you enjoyed it, Sam.
Well, yeah, I would say so. The reason why it's sus for you is because of the mixed bag, and it's unfantastical. No, it's fantastical in an unfantastical way, and I can see why it's like that. The main reason why I'm expectant is because of the main character. As you said, he's a great main character. I love how it's funny. He does most of his stuff like any other great character who is, no, quote unquote great character who was raised by their grandfather to do what his grandfather said, and it's like anything that he does, he always sort of validates what he's doing by a quote from his great grandfather. It's like it's like when he went to go and break through the chain link fence. Everybody told him not to go in that area, but his grandfather says like it's a time of youth, go and do the things that you're not supposed to do. And he's saying that to himself as he's breaking the rules, and is like, okay. Just a fun upbeat character. And it seemed like there was also some stuff going on with his lineage and his parents that they've touched on. I don't know if they're going to do much about. And I'm just interested to see how the conflict plays out, to see what kind of more powers that they can get by breaking more seals, and what he would have to do in order to prevent all blown chaos to go through the roof. So I'm a little bit expected in the series. Like, it is going to be lambastic, and it is. Some people will not act like people, but I think it would be a fun ride.
Yeah, that's fair to say. I think I'm more on the side of now that again we're revealing this in after its 10-year anniversary. I mean, it premiered back
Yeah.
in October 2010, and that we have Darling in the Franks that followed up to this. I'm like, this is just a less less interesting Darling in the Franks, and I'm like, oh, okay, I kind of like Darling in the Franks more now. But anyway, it's weird that it came around to this. Is like it feels very much a just a bargain brand version of Darling in the Franks, and I'm just very surprised is that if Darling in the Franks didn't pull that third act kind of twist, I was like, this is kind of the direction Darling in the Franks could have went. Is that it's just something to enjoy. Again, I'm not again
Yeah.
passing it. I kind of went into this thinking, oh, this is definitely going to be better than Gundam Unicorn, and I was sorely mistaken about that. Uh, yeah, Gundam Unicorn blows us out of the water, and now I know why that no one talks about Star Driver like how they talk about Gundam Unicorn. But it's really interesting that it did demand again a movie release, the compilation movie in 2013,
Yeah.
as it had a manga series co-released with its anime premiere.
Oh,
So
it
the manga,
did?
yeah,
I
yeah.
saw
So
that it was a anime original, but I didn't know that they had a manga that was released from it as well. That's
yeah, it
interesting.
is an original anime, but the manga was co-released with it, so it was being drawn up as the
Oh,
anime
in
was
tandem.
released.
Okay.
In tandem, thank you. That's the word. Yeah, tandem. That word. Anyways, yeah. So it's 3 volumes, 25 chapters, so very easy to read. And I'm glad that you mentioned that you found it on. You watched this on Crunchyroll, right, Sam?
Yes, it was either Crunchyroll or Verve.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay. So
yeah.
I did not know about that. So I watched it on Hulu Japan. So it's very interesting that it wasn't
VPN
available on
coming in
Hulu.
clutch.
Yeah, it wasn't really. It was funny that it wasn't available on Hulu like US. It was available on
Yeah.
Hulu Japan. So yeah, it's available on Crunchyroll, Hulu Japan, and Verb, as well as Funimation Now, which is of course the Funimation service. So uh, it's your anime, Sam. So you want to say anything before we actually wrap up the episode?
Real quick, yeah. I will say one other thing that I liked about it too was in the beginning, like the first few episodes, the background music, it felt very reminiscent of Final Fantasy VII, and because like I had just played that game, I guess that's another reason why I liked it as well. So the music accompaniment in the beginning, it was fairly good, but aside from that, you know, just like any other good quote, any other episode should end it off with a quote. When what you want to do and ought to do are one and the same, you can hear the world speaking to you. And Jay, I think we shouldn't keep the world waiting.